Hello friends, Erica-Simone here. Welcome to another episode of Color Their World. Now for our Monday reading today, we are talking everything grandmothers, okay? We're going to be reading this book called My Two Grannies, and sitting beside me is my mother-in-law, my children's grandmother. And I have a couple questions to ask you. What does it feel like to be a grandmother?
To me, being a grandmother is such a blessing. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a blessing.
What do you like about being a grandma?
Being a grandmother for me is really, what you say? It's a joyous time for me, especially looking forward to coming in to visit them. And I don't have that whole responsibility of being there every day for them, but for that week or for that 2 weeks, I can enjoy every part of them and, you know, doing things with them, like walking, making cookies with them, you know.
That's it?
There's a number of things.
Okay, right. So we get it. She likes being a grandmother, right? Some people don't. But we're happy that that I have a mother-in-law who likes being a grandmother because it's a great help for me. This little girl, her name is Alvina. She has a grandmother who happens to be from Trinidad and a grandmother who is from England. Now, this story resonated with me in so many different ways because this grandmother reminds me of my grandmother, literally. And it also reminded me of my family because my family is a blended family, as you would have seen in the book Missing You, which was written after my uncle. He's from Ireland. My aunt is Trinidadian. And there are many examples of this in our society today where we see families that are not all the same skin color, right? You could have what? A black marrying an Asian person. Caucasian person marrying an African, and it just goes to show that we have changed so much in society, and we are not only accepting people for who they are and their cultures and their nationality, but it's a beautiful thing to see. And I really hope that you guys enjoy reading this book as much as I enjoyed reading it. So let's sit back, grab a snack. See if she watches the show, right? Sit back, grab a snack, and let's read My Two Grannies. My Two Grannies, written by Floella Benjamin, illustrated by Margaret Chamberlain. Alvina had two grannies who she loved with all her heart. They were called Granny Vero and Granny Rose. Granny Vero was born on the Caribbean island of Trinidad, and Granny Rose was born in the Yorkshire town of Barnsley. Now, they both lived in the same city as Alvina and her parents. Alvina always looked forward to visiting her grannies because she loved hearing the stories they told about when they were little girls. "Tell me about Trinidad again," Alvina begged. "Oh, don't you ever get tired of hearing the same stories, Alvina?" said Granny Vero. "Never," said Alvina. "Okay, when I was your age, I would go to the beach and splash around in the tropical sea," said Granny Vero with a big smile on her face. "We never wanted to come out of that warm water." "I would love to do that, Granny V," said Alvina. "Well, one day, I will take you to Trinidad, darling," said Granny Vero. "I promise." When Alvina saw Granny Rose, she asked, "Did you swim in the sea all day when you were little?" "No, lovey," laughed Granny Rose. "The sea in Blackpool was much too cold. But we did play on the beach all day long and ride on the donkeys. We must all go to Blackpool one day so you can do that too." "Oh, yes," said Alvina. Both grannies loved to play music on their old record players, and Alvina loved listening to it. Granny Rose played brass band music. "This music always reminds me of when we used to go to the park on Sundays to listen to the local brass band. On May Monday, we would watch the Morris dancers fling their arms in the air and jingle the bells on their legs as they twirled around the maypole to the music." "Let's try it, Granny R," said Alvina, and they both fell exhausted into a heap of laughter when they tried to do the Morris dance. Granny Vero's favorite music was calypso and steel pan. "This is what they used to play in Trinidad," Granny Vero explained to Alvina. "It always made me want to dance in the streets at carnival time, Come on, Alvina, shake your waist while you dance now. Like this, Granny V? That's right, darling. One day, Alvina's two grannies were at her house for tea. Alvina's mom said, "It will be our 10th wedding anniversary next month. Why don't the two of you go away together? I'll be more than happy to look after Alvina," said Granny Vero. "No, I will look after her. She can come and stay with me," said Granny Rose. The two grannies argued and argued about who would look after Alvina. So Alvina said, "Why don't you both stay here and look after me?" The two grannies frowned at each other, but agreed. Yes, they would both look after Alvina. The day arrived when Alvina's parents were going off on holiday. "Have a nice time," said Alvina, hugging her mom and dad tightly. "We're going to miss you," said Mom. "Be a good girl for your grannies," said Dad. "I will," said Alvina. "Don't worry, I will look after her," said Granny Vero. "And so will I," said Granny Rose. As they waved her parents goodbye, Alvina said, "Let's play a game. We can play dominoes. We can play snakes and ladders." Alvina did not know which game to play first. So she said, "Shall we go for a walk?" "Let's go to the park. We can feed the ducks." "We could go to the zoo and see the agouti and the toucan." Alvina didn't know what to do, so she asked, "Shall we have something to eat first?" "I'll cook a lovely steak and kidney pie with mashed potatoes and carrots." "No! Let me cook some nice rice and peas with chicken and plantains." Alvina couldn't decide who should cook, so they got something out of the freezer. At bedtime, the two grannies both wanted to tell Alvina a story. "How about an Anansi story?" said Granny Vero. "Or I could tell her the story of Jack and the Beanstalk," said Granny Rose. Alvina didn't know which story to choose, so she said she was too tired to hear a story and went to sleep. The next morning, when Alvina got up, she had an idea. She sat down with the two grannies at the breakfast table. "Granny V and Granny R, I love the things you both do for me, so why don't you take turns? Granny V can do everything one day, and Granny R can do everything the next day." And that's what happened. They all played dominoes the way Granny Vero did when she was a girl. Afterwards, Granny Vero cooked peas and rice, chicken and plantains with mango flan for pudding. "This is lovely, Granny V," said Alvina, tucking in. Very nice," said Granny Rose. "You must give me the recipe." They went to the zoo and saw the agouti and the toucan, the animals Granny Vero had seen in the forest as a girl in Trinidad. "It must have been wonderful to see these animals in the wild," said Granny Rose. That night, Granny Vero told an exciting Anansi story. "Anansi would turn himself into a spider whenever he was in trouble," she said. "Or if he wanted to play a trick," chipped in Alvina, who couldn't help joining in. "That Anansi sounds crafty," said Granny Rose. "He is," said Alvina, with eyes wide as saucers. Alvina gave both her grannies a big hug and fell fast asleep with a smile on her face. The grannies smiled too. The next day, it was Granny Rose's turn. They played snakes and ladders. "Down the snake I go," said Granny Rose. "Never mind, Granny R," said Alvina. "You won the last game." Then they went to the park and Alvina fed the ducks. "That duck is greedy. It's eating all the bread," laughed Alvina. "I'll give them some too," said Granny Vero. "This is fun." Granny Rose cooked steak and kidney pie with mashed potatoes and carrots and apple pie for pudding. "You must show me how to make steak and kidney pie, eh?" said Granny Vero. "It's delicious." At bedtime, Granny Rose told the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman, Alvina and Granny Rose said together. I like that part of the story, said Alvina. Run, Jack, run! Yes, run, Jack, giggled Granny Vero. The two grannies took turns for the rest of the week to look after Alvina. They really got to know each other. When Alvina's parents came back from holiday, she was excited to see them. Did you have a nice time with your grannies? Asked Mom. Oh, yes, said Alvina. We had lots of fun. They both made me feel so special. That's because we love you, chirped the two grannies, and they gave her a great big hug. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this reading today. We were at My Two Grannies, and I forgot to mention it was written by Floella Benjamin, illustrated by Margaret Chamberlain. And Floella, thank you for representing Trinidad, man. Like, it's very rare that we find a book with a granny from Trinidad, right? Yes. So don't forget to like,
Comment,
like,
and make sure to click the thumbs up.
Yeah, and can we thank Granny for joining us today?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for reading with us today. We really hope that you enjoyed this book. I actually found it in my local library. So, yeah, tune in.
Read again.
Listen.